Hello everyone and welcome back to Man vs. Artificial Intelligence. This is part number 8. So far I have addressed these specific questions. Does the AI currently pose a challenge to an experienced player? I believe I've proven that it really doesn't pose any challenge to an experienced player. I also talked about why the AI exists. And I concluded that it simply exists because it has to exist, almost by default. WDS wishes to at least give players who purchase their games some ability to play against a computer opponent, but I don't think they really believe that that is the ideal way that these games are meant to be played. I think they're meant to be played against another human. Most recently, I asked the question, how does the AI work? And the answer is that the AI works through either a scripted method, where they are told what to do even before the scenario begins, or they use a dynamic method in which they are supposed to respond to what you're doing and the battlefield situation. So I decided to test them both out and play the same game both in a scripted manner and in a dynamic manner. The first game I played was against a dynamic AI opponent at the Battle of Antietam. It did not go well for the AI in this game. They lost over 14,000 men, along with 55 guns and 15 leaders. I actually ended the game on turn number 27 because there was nothing else going on. The AI had stopped attacking, and the battle was essentially over. I then played against the AI one more time at the Battle of Antietam, except this time with a scripted AI opponent. This battle went even worse for the AI. They lost over 44,000 men, including 96 guns and 53 leaders. It was really no challenge at all for me. So when you compare these two methods, scripted and dynamic, is one better than the other? Because in both cases, I dominated the AI. Well, let's do a little bit of comparing and contrasting. Overall, I believe the scripted AI challenge was the more amusing game to play and did technically offer a greater challenge to me. But because the AI was following a script, their army moved like zombies and was not able to realize when they were following a poor plan. It was really kind of sad. Because the AI has no ability to assess threats, and no ability to weigh the pros and cons of a situation, no matter what they are ordered to do in the script, that's what they're going to do. Even if it makes no sense rationally to anyone, the AI is still going to follow through with that plan. And that's part of the problem with a scripted game. When things don't go as anticipated by whoever wrote the script is pretty worthless. And as the player against the AI in one of these games, once you realize what their script is telling them to do, you can just turn off your brain and just get down to killing them as fast as you can. Because, really, they're just going to continue to follow the same script again and again. There's nothing new coming your way. So you might as well just build breastworks, set up your guns, and just kill them until the clock runs out. And when you play a scripted battle, it does require a lot of patience and also understanding to defeat the AI in these battles. And I think there is the possibility that if a novice player or someone that's not as experienced in these games gets into one of these AI challenge battles, they could very well be overwhelmed because they see an enemy that just continually attacks them and they just begin to lose their confidence, believing that the AI is going to hunt them down and overwhelm them. Well, that's simply not the case. If you're playing against the AI, stand your ground, realize that they aren't going to be able to continue attack and take such heavy losses forever, and search out a good position with modifiers in your advantage and just wear them down turn after turn. Now, when you play against the AI in a dynamic scenario, the situation really isn't any better at all. In the battle I fought against them, the AI seemed to be confused, and they had no real plans at all in the game, because they weren't programmed with any plans. They were just kind of doing whatever needed to be done, in their opinion. And when you think dynamic, you think of an AI with the ability to anticipate things and act proactively. So maybe dynamic isn't a really good term to use for these type of games, but that's the term that WDS uses. But none of that happened here. The AI was not dynamic, they did not move proactively, they didn't anticipate anything, and they just got destroyed. The AI posed almost no challenge here, and they did not attack my army unless we happened to be too near their lines. They didn't seem to be doing anything intelligent, and the battle was kind of a laugher. Honestly, it was a very boring game playing against a dynamic AI opponent. Now that we've talked about how the AI works, let's shift gears and discuss the differences when you play head-to-head versus when you play against the AI. And I'm just going to choose one short battle here and use this as an example of how the AI plays in one way, but a human opponent will play in a completely different way, and the vast difference between the two. So once more, shall we play a game? Yes, we shall. This time we're going to go to Campaign Franklin and take on the AI at the Battle of Franklin itself. So let's kick it off and let's get started. We're going to blaze right through these 10 turns here. This is the traditional Battle of Franklin scenario. In theory, I should get my butt kicked in this battle because the Federal Army has the same number of men as I do, and they are behind incredibly strong defensive lines. So my plan here is pretty straightforward. I only have 10 turns, so I'm going to attack the enemy and hope I can somehow break through their lines around Franklin. Not too complicated. I have Cheatham over on my left and Stuart on my right. I'm hoping that if I can rush forward as fast as possible, I can rout the Federal line out in front of their main defenses and follow them back to their main line and hopefully disrupt and rout them. Really, this is one of the hardest battles to play and win from the Confederate standpoint. If you're playing against a human opponent, every single thing has to go in your favor during these 10 turns if you are to have any hope of winning this battle. Alright, well let's get right into it. The battle begins here. This is how the battlefield looks after turn number 1. I have already moved as the Confederates, and I attacked their exposed brigades out in front of Franklin, and I easily drove them back as expected. I am going to try and follow them, as I said, back into their defensive lines. If I can do that and keep up the pressure, there's a chance I can disrupt or rout their front line, and maybe that will allow me to get over those entrenchments. Over on my right flank, I have no idea what the AI is doing, but they have crossed the Harpeth River with 2 cavalry regiments to attack my own cavalry. Doesn't really make any sense why they would do that, because now their back is to the creek. This could easily net me hundreds of points in this game because I'm going to be able to get behind them, cut off those cavalry units, and very simply capture them. Moving forward to turn number 2, and I was able to follow up those routed Federal units just as I had hoped, and have already reached the enemy entrenchments. They do have abattis in front of their line, so I'm going to have to go over those, and that's going to cause me to disrupt as soon as I enter those areas. I know the fighting is going to be brutal and ugly moving forward as I try to get through their army. The key is just to never stop attacking and to always keep them disrupted. If you can do that as the Confederates, you at least have a chance to win this battle. Both sides had their first leader losses this turn, as I captured Colonel Conrad, but lost General John Carter, who was wounded in the fighting. Meanwhile, the little mini cavalry battle down on my right flank goes on, as I continue to try to isolate these Federal cavalrymen. Moving to turn number 3 in the game, and I breached the enemy entrenchments and am now over the wall in front of the Carter House. I'm really surprised it only took 3 turns, but the Federal line was already disrupted and they were having problems keeping their men in place. Not only that, but the AI is already making dumb moves. Rather than just sit back and wait for me to attack, they actually left their entrenchments and entered the abattis, which increases their own losses by 10% and automatically disrupts them. I don't know why the AI does these things, but it makes me cringe. No human opponent would ever leave those defensive lines because they know they have all the modifiers in their favor. But the AI, they come out of their defensive lines for some reason, and that's really going to hurt them. And I am still attacking as brutally as I can. I'm meleeing wherever I can, but I'm also maintaining a distance between my frontline units and their rear reserves. That way, if people rout back, they don't disrupt the rest of my army. I now have the enemy cavalry isolated along the Harpeth River, and I'll be able to bag them very soon. Turn number 4. And again, it's just an ugly battle around Franklin. Both sides are taking heavy losses in this head-to-head combat. But the Federals are taking heavier losses as they continue to rout rearwards and are having their guns destroyed by my attacking infantry. Luckily, when their infantry routs back, the guns are left unsupported. A human opponent would have reinforced those hexes with available units nearby, but the AI just leaves those guns out in the open. And again, the AI just continues to make poor moves in this game. They've counterattacked my lines not once, but twice through the abattis, and they've left their guns unguarded, then they attacked with their cavalry. You know, it's just a mess, but it's what I've come to expect when I play against the AI. 2 more officers went down this turn. I did manage to capture John Croxton, but States Rights Gist was wounded over on my flank. Now, turn number 5 in the game, and I've been able to launch melee attacks against the AI lines slowly but steadily. The AI has either routed rearwards or been overran in most of these instances. Going to turn number 6, and the heavy fighting has continued, and I keep pushing back the AI lines and capturing key objective points around the town of Franklin. Turn 7, and night has actually fallen in the game, which limits the visibility to just 1 hex, and the Federal line is now almost completely overrun around the town of Franklin. I'm just going to go 1 more turn here just to wipe out that last Federal unit in my front. And the AI is no longer moving very much, and with night now fallen, I'm just going to go ahead and say this game is over. So I was able to completely overrun the Federal position, and the AI has fallen back. So that is the end of this battle. How did it turn out? Well, it turned out really well for me. The AI still has more than 10,000 fresh troops, but they are inactive in the town of Franklin, or they're still on the other side of the Harpeth River. They aren't even using the troops that they have, and it was relatively easy for me to push them back away from their main lines. My own forces were totally mixed together during this battle. They were disorganized, but that didn't seem to matter because we won the battle. I was able to max stack my units, overpower the Federal defenders, rout and disorganize them, capture unprotected guns. It really wasn't too much of a challenge. As far as the casualties go, well, the Federals lost more men. They lost 4,736 infantry, 636 cavalry, and 26 guns, along with 5 leaders. I lost about half that with 2,448 infantry, 78 cavalry, and just 2 leaders. So, although this wasn't as huge of a lopsided victory as I had at Antietam, the situations were hardly comparable. There I was playing defense, here I was playing offensively, and the AI was gifted an incredibly strong defensive line which I had to overcome. Now, if I was playing against a human opponent, they would have made this infinitely harder, and I'm actually going to dive into that a little bit more. So when you play against a human opponent, there is a much higher probability that they are not going to make these silly mistakes. And the ones that the AI made here at the Battle of Franklin, they were silly mistakes. They really were. They were mistakes which cost them the battle, which a human opponent would never be likely to make. So, I'm actually going to replay this scenario 1 more time except against a human opponent. So I'm going to go back to Campaign Franklin and play against one of my buddies and see if I can break his line. Alright, well, you know what? I'm not even going to bother showing you the turns. I absolutely got my butt kicked in this game. I could not break his lines. He reinforced his defensive lines. He took the units which were routed or disrupted and moved them back. He brought freshmen forward. He did everything he was supposed to do. And he easily defeated me. So in one battle against the AI, it was a simple victory for me. In one battle against a human, I got my butt kicked. But that's how the Battle of Franklin should work. It's not going to be likely that the Confederates win here when they're playing against a human opponent. But when they're playing against the AI, you could probably win 9 times or more out of 10. Against a human opponent, I just had no chance. He reinforced all the right areas, and he was well positioned. The AI did none of that. It was a total change from the last few games that I was playing against the artificial intelligence. And it was nice to see a competent enemy force for a change, even if it meant I was getting my butt kicked. It was just nice to face an opponent that made good decisions. The AI did not put up even half the challenge that the human opponent did in this scenario. And I think that's the real problem whenever you play against the AI. They hardly ever offer you a real challenge. So man versus man, it's always going to be a greater contest because your human opponent will be able to actively think as the game progresses and respond to what's going on. The AI, they're using a script. They have no idea what's going on, and they'll usually act blindly just following that script. It's not much of a challenge. Alright, so that is the main difference between head-to-head play and AI play. So can the AI ever offer that same level of challenge as a human opponent? Well, we'll talk about that in the next episode, and we'll address the question of whether or not the AI does have a future with these games. Alright everybody, thank you for watching. I appreciate it as always. If you want to learn more about the American Civil War Gaming Club, you can go to acwgc.net and check us out there. Until next time everyone, just remember, keep gaming.